Hi everyone and welcome back to a new episode of 7 Minutes of Better Selling Podcast. I'm your host Colin Lake. No, I always say it. I like to say it. I someday would like to take Colin place. So welcome back. I am your host of the day, Simon, and some of you who know who's following this show for a really, really long time. Every once in a while, we go back and do a recap of last 4 episodes, and this is one of my personal episodes of this series because I just love tuning into these episodes and just listen to what all the past 4 episodes have been. So today we're gonna recap past 4 episodes starting from episode 8, 9, 10, and 11. And to do that, we have none other than the charming, the handsome, and the most talented host we ever have in this C Sharp TV. Let's welcome Mr. Colin Lake.
All
Hi,
right,
Colin.
love that. That's a great welcome and intro, Simon. Well, Simon, I had to pay a compliment back to you. As you can see, Simon has darkness behind him. He is black. He's in India, and his blackouts are no power. And he said, "Let's power right through this show." And he's always ready to go, always with backups to be able to be available for the listening audience. So Thanks, Simon, for being.
All right, no problem at all. We all love this podcast. So, Colin, let's get started with the episode number 8, where we had Tom, who owns a restaurant, and he talked about about chasing your dream, right? So, what do you take from that episode, and what would you like to go ahead and reshare to our audiences from that episode?
Yes. So Dom is this amazing restaurateur who years ago buys this small little middling type restaurant in a sleepy town in Massachusetts and turns it into this thriving business that has quadrupled in number of employees. They have like 67 or 70 employees. I forget exactly how many employees they have. They 10 times the revenue, and it is written up everywhere. I mean, it's one of these amazing restaurants. And so the whole purpose of season 2 of the 7 Minutes of Better Selling podcast is about selling yourself. So he's a really good guy. Like to ask what gets you motivated, what keeps you motivated, and what keeps you motivating your staff to stay at their, best. And so the thing he said is, once you have established what your dream is, like what do you really want? He said that one little moment in my life changed everything, because everything below that became steps to take in order to follow that dream. And what I thought, Simon, like what like I was drawn to was, what really is my dream? Like, am I pursuing my dream, or am I pursuing a career, or am I pursuing money, or like what am I really going after? And so like that took some soul searching. He asked a great question there, like what are you pursuing? And for me, I've got to make sure that all of my efforts are towards this dream, and then every step below that becomes a step towards this dream. And so what helps him sell himself is he's taking these steps in order to follow his dream, and he's helping people behind him do that as well. A wonderful thought altogether, Simon. So I thought that show was a great one. Really loved talking with Dom.
Yeah, likewise. So did we. Both loved editing that podcast behind the scenes. We had so much tough time editing it down to 7 to 8 minutes because there was so much of the great content. Having said that, we'll move to the next episode. That was episode number 9. We had Teresa, who is a trainer, professor, and a business coach. It was a great episode, right, which she was also talking about some great and all cool tech terminologies. What are your takeaways from that episode?
So Teresa was an interesting story. I don't know if everyone saw that one, or who's listening now saw that one, or who will see this in the future saw that one. But Teresa, at the age of 19, just graduated from college, had no job, and was pregnant, and had a child, and got married, and her husband died a few years later. So all of a sudden, she has no job. She had not developed any skill sets to that point, and she had a child to raise, didn't have a big family support staff behind her. And so what she said is, I've got to figure out how to do something here. Like this is like ground zero here. I need to figure out how to go up from where we are today. Like an amazing point in someone's life. Like I have someone that I'm responsible for. And so what she started to do is like the simplest of thoughts was, she said, how do I invest in myself? Like I believe I am the most important asset in this process of protecting myself and fending for myself and my child, and ultimately supporting us into the future. And so she said, I consistently think about what can I do to invest in myself? And when you're investing in yourself, obviously that you're making yourself better. And that was the way that she suggested, here's how I help myself perform at like my highest level by continuing investing in myself. So if remember, we asked her questions like, how do you do that? Like, what do you do? And so first thing she said is I find mentors. I'm talking to people all the time. And not just like one or two questions, but 10 or 15 questions. I try and, get time with these people. I try and dig into their brains and ask them what's making them so successful and what can I learn and how can I apply that to me? And how does that relate to like where I'm trying to invest in myself, like spiritually, physically, professionally, educationally. She's a professor too, as you mentioned. So like, how do I invest in myself? And I think it's a great one for us all to consider is, and maybe that's my question to all of you is, what do you do every day to invest in yourself? Period. Or question mark. What do you do? Yeah, it's a good question,
Yeah.
Pat.
Yeah, my answer to that question is I'm very lucky to tune into this 7 Minutes Better Selling podcast bi-weekly.
One.
Having
That is
said
a great
that,
one.
you really enjoyed the next episode that where we hosted Matthew, who's a senior vice president at Mindcracker, which is consulting, and they do a lot of great Savadi stuff. And when he talked about working with their clients, I could see you really charming in there, having a very great conversation with Matthew. So, what do you recall from that episode, and what are some of your pearls of wisdom from there?
Um, I love that episode. You're absolutely right, Simon. He's like a sales guy. He like loves selling and loves communicating with people, and he has that whole frame of reference where he like looks at things like if I had that product, how would I sell it? Or if I had that service, how would I sell it? He says like everywhere he is and everything he's doing, he looks at it like through that lens. And the big takeaway I had is he said, if you research your client effectively, that would dictate every question that you would ask in that conversation. And so like, if you think about that may sound basic, but if I go into a meeting and say to someone, tell me about your business, that is like a really broad question and can be asked by anyone. Versus if I come into a conversation and said, prior to this meeting, I learned that your business was focused on these three verticals, or you're really trying to improve with this particular product or this particular skill set. Recognizing that, how have you done? Now that's a whole different set of questions that you're able to ask. So research first drives the right types of questions. If you're asking the right types of questions, you find yourselves in better conversations and you're learning things from your potential clients or current clients that they're not telling anyone else. Maybe you're helping them find out things about themselves when you're asking them questions like this. So he said, how I sell myself, like to perform my highest level, is I say, in order for me to like help people the most, I need to understand who they are and what they're after. Once I do that, then I can ask the right types of questions to learn the right types of things to then perform at my highest level. So he said research, and that's a really good one. I buy into that a lot, Simon. I performed that act a lot prior to getting into conversations. So I thought that was a great takeaway from Matthew.
Yeah, that was a great podcast. And just in case everyone is wondering where they can watch all these podcasts, you can visit developingthenextleaders.com/podcast, and there you'll find all the past podcasts and also the podcast from season one. Having said that, Colin, I'll take you to the final podcast that we did. The last one that was with Michael Tershman. He's the founder and CEO of MAPay. He was here in India. Everybody loved him on the stage. And I saw you also enjoyed in that podcast. So, what do you recall from hosting him in your previous episode?
Well, Simon, you remember that was long. We went much longer than 17
Very
minutes or
long.
much longer than 10 minutes, which we're going now. But and we'll edit that, or we're working on editing that. But the thing that like he had so much to say, and he got into like the specific product and the specific problem they're trying to solve with the products. It was really an interesting conversation. I asked him, how do you sell yourself? Like, how do you really sell yourself? This guy's a CEO of a big business. They're multinational. Mm-hmm. They're changing, like making major impact with countries worldwide with what they're doing with pay in the healthcare system. Like they're literally changing the lives of entire populations in certain countries. This guy's making a big difference in the world. So what do you do to sell yourself and to sell your team to perform at their highest level? And so he said, number one is health. We have to be really, really healthy. We have to do those things that keep us healthy so we're feeling great and we have vitality and love for like going out and like performing these type of acts and being enthusiastic about them. He said you can't do that with health, without your health. One of the expressions I've heard, Simon, which is a good one, he said, healthy people have lots of things that they want. Sick people want one thing,
Wow.
and that's to get better, right? And so it's so true. Like if someone's really sick, they have one thing on their mind. When you're healthy, you have lots of things on your mind. And so he said, let's get yourself healthy. When you're healthy, you can start thinking about all of the things that help you perform at your highest level. And then he said, get a routine. Get healthy, then follow a routine. When you follow a routine, then and only then are you able to perform at your highest level. Get healthy, follow a routine. That's how this is now Dersh talking. That's how I perform my highest level. And this is another one that I've followed for the last 40 years of my life is I need to get healthy, get my workouts in, do all those things that make me feel right in the head. And then I follow my routine throughout the day. And that's me performing at my highest level. So a great set of shows, Simon, to say the very least. And of course, you do an excellent job running all of them.
All right, thanks, Colin. I really enjoy running your show. Having said that, Colin, thank you so much for recapping this episode. I see we're already at 12 minutes. So I'm going to wrap up this episode of 7 Minutes of Better Selling podcast. To everyone joining now, I see a lot of folks are joining on LinkedIn. We do these podcasts bi-weekly. Just go ahead and follow Colin Lake on LinkedIn and you will come to know about the latest episodes. Having said that, thank you so much, everyone, and good selling, everybody.